We are just under a week away from the NFL draft, and we are looking down the barrel of potentially one of the greatest Cincinnati Bearcats NFL draft nights, because you have potentially two first-round picks for the Cincinnati Bearcats. And coming on to discuss that is Keith Jenkins, who covers the Cincinnati sports for the Enquirer. We've had him on before. Keith, first, I want to apologize for my Alabama team beating your Cincinnati Bearcats in the college football playoffs.
I was wondering if you were gonna address that and mention that. No, it's all good, man. I mean, it was a good game, and it was a solid 3 quarters. We gave you guys a solid, 3 quarters and change.
Absolutely. You guys really did. It was a hard-fought matchup. I mean, it wasn't until the fourth quarter where Alabama pulled away, but you guys hung in there. I think there were some missed opportunities by Desmond Ridder. So that's where I want to lead off. Desmond Ridder, what do you see out of him? What are the intangibles that teams should be looking at, and where could we potentially see him draft?
Yeah, if you look at Desmond just on that night, right, like he's probably a 3rd, 4th round pick. But if you say, all right, look, the offensive line was in over its head, the Alabama defense played great. Dez is a guy that has all the intangibles that you want in a quarterback. He's a great leader. He's the 3rd winningest quarterback in the history of the sport. He's a great leader. He's an even keel guy. He doesn't get too high, get too low. He's a great athlete, and I think that's where it starts. Now, when Dez started his college career, yeah, he was the American Athletic Conference Rookie of the Year, but he was an athlete playing quarterback. I think as he grew and became the 2-time AAC Offensive Player of the Year, he became a great quarterback who just happens to be a great athlete. He really worked and developed and improved his accuracy, his motion, his consistency with his throw, and he's really developed into quite a thrower. So, look, I think it wouldn't be shocking if he fell into that, 20 range, Pittsburgh, late 20s. But I think maybe the more likely scenario is that Dez is an early 2nd round pick. But again, if he falls into that late 1st round, I think it just depends on how the quarterbacks start to fall. If we see a guy like Malik Willis go 2nd overall to Detroit, I'm not saying he will. I'm saying that's a possibility. We might start to see a run on quarterbacks, and I could see Dez falling into that 1st round. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more with that statement, is the fact that this gets called over and over again a weak draft class. But I think just the fact that we don't have a bona fide number 1 doesn't make it a weaker draft class, because there are guys like Desmond Ridder who has all those intangibles, everything that you want in a quarterback on and off the field in terms of leadership, work ethic. I absolutely see with Desmond Ridder, and I could see him being a 1st round pick, but ultimately it's how the board falls. And too many people know that all too well, especially when it comes to draft parties or being, there at the draft and hoping to walk across the stage. So I absolutely see that. If you had a perfect spot that you would like to see Desmond Ridder compete for a starting job, where would you place him?
I'd like to see Dez go to Indianapolis. I've spoken with Dez about this, and I've spoken with his agent to see what they're hearing. He's heard anything from, mid-1st round to early 2nd. But I think I think the Colts have, I don't have it in front of me, but somewhere in the neighborhood of the 40th overall pick, early 2nd round. If he would go to the Colts is a team, they have a great defense. They got a great complementary piece offensively with Jonathan Taylor. They got a great offensive line. And most importantly, they got a guy in Matt Ryan who, look, I don't know how many throws Matt Ryan has left. But if Dez could go in there, learn from a former league MVP, a former Super Bowl quarterback, learn the league, learn the system, learn how to truly be a professional. And look, Dez is a mature guy. He has a child of his own that he's raising. But he's a guy that, look, you won't have to worry about him getting headlines and doing something stupid out in the streets and grabbing the wrong headlines. He's a very, professional, already a very mature young man. But having an opportunity to learn and grow behind someone like a Matt Ryan, a pro's pro, a guy who's been in the league a lot and done a lot in the community and on the field, and as he's kind of in this, golden age of his career, as he's, looking to his latter years, he can really nurture Dez and help him grow. And I think that would be a great pass the torch moment where, look, Dez grows and learns for a year or two. Matt Ryan, rides off into the sunset and Dez can take over the reins. I think that would be a great spot for him. And also, they've got a great offensive-minded staff and an offensive-minded head coach that I think would allow Dez to grow and really develop into a great pro there, as opposed to, say, a Seattle with a Pete Carroll, who's more of a defensive-minded guy. So I'd like to see Dez, if possible, fall into a spot like Indianapolis where the pieces are already there for him.
I've always said it's not just about your talent, it's about where you land as well, because the opportunities and what surrounds you is ultimately just as important as the talent that you bring to the field. So I agree with that sentiment 100%. We're speaking with Keith Jenkins, who covers the Cincinnati sports for the Enquirer. Let's go over to the other side of the ball with, probably one of the drippiest players of all time, Sauce Gardner. We got Jets fans, we got Giants fans tuning in, looking with pick 4, pick 5 potentially. What do you see in Sauce? What makes him so special?
He is that, man. He is special. In this day and age, when you're having to guard guys like DK Metcalf and Mike Evans and just these huge, monstrous wide receivers with strength and athletic ability, but then also a guy like Tyreek Hill, who's not one of these big monster wide receivers, but who can take the top off of a defense. You need a corner who can guard both of those guys, both of that wide-ranging level of wide receivers. Sauce is that. He's 6'3". He's freakishly long, has that 4.4 40. But I think what's great about Sauce is he's got great field awareness. He always knows where he is on the field, the down and distance. He has great technique at the line of scrimmage. He's great in man coverage, zone coverage, cover 3, cover 4. If you're a team, if you're the Jets, if you're the Giants, you're salivating. You're drooling at the mouth to be able to get a guy like Sauce. And look at how he's developed. When he was a freshman at Cincinnati, Luke Fickell never envisioned that he had a player like this. He was 160, 65 pounds, soaking wet. But they put him on the field just because they needed to give some guys a breather. Pick 6, and he's never left the field since. But he's developed into about a 200-pound corner. And I think once he gets into an NFL program, get into the weight room, and I think he'll only continue to develop physically, but already athletically, he has all the tools that you'll want in a corner. And I think, too, people see the Sauce nickname, and you said the drippy, right? He's got the diamond necklace with his name on it.
Mm-hmm.
People think he's this arrogant, awful personality to deal with. He couldn't be more humble, man. He is a confident guy, no doubt about it, but he's a humble guy. He's always got a smile. He's a hard worker. He comes from a great family, and he's been working his tail off for this moment. So it looks like, whether he goes to 2 at Detroit or 4 in the Jets or even 5 with the Giants, if he's in that 2 or that 4 spot, he will be the highest drafted player in the history of the Cincinnati program. And these Bearcat fans and that program, they're excited to watch history on Thursday night.
He kind of reminds me of Jalen Ramsey with that type of swagger. And, one of the things with having swag is a lot of, I'm not going to pin it on older people, but the older generation don't really understand what comes along with that. Just because you got the swag, just because you got that drip, doesn't mean that you're not performing at a high level or working Monday through Sunday in doing everything in the offseason you need to do to succeed. We've seen it with Jalen Ramsey. He puts in the work, and I don't know Sauce personally, but he looks like the kind of guy that puts in the work Monday through Friday, so that way on Saturday when he steps on the field for the Cincinnati Bearcats, he knows what he's doing, when he's doing it, and how he's going to do it.
That's exactly right, man. He is a very hardworking young man. And I think, too, his teammates love him. I mean, when this NIL became a true thing, he had his website. He's selling Sauce merchandise, and you got kids in the stands wearing Sauce T-shirts and shorts and jerseys and hoodies, and you're probably like, man, this guy is unbearable. He's got to be, his ego's got to be through the roof at this point. And his teammates and his coaches all go, no, man, he's just as confident and as calm and as driven and humble as he's been, the first day I met him. And it's just really cool to see someone get as much attention as he has, but it hasn't fazed him. And me, I played corner in college, and I remember giving him some advice in fall camp. And look, Sauce is worlds better than I ever was. But I remember telling him, man, your biggest strength is knowing where you are on the field. If you're a corner and you know exactly where that team needs to be, where that receiver needs to be the first down, that's half the battle, man. And he's so aware at all times exactly where he is, where he needs to be, where that receiver needs to be. And what makes him special is when he plays man coverage, and that's usually what he's in, and he can play all coverages. But when he's in man, he does a great job of keeping one eye on his receiver and one eye on the quarterback. And a lot of corners can't do that. They get so caught up in the backfield that they lose sight of their man. But he's just got great vision. He knows tendencies and coverages, and if an offense lines up in this formation, he knows what you're going to throw at him because he studies film. So the Jets, the Giants, the Lions, whoever is there in that top 5 region, that top 5 pick of the first round, they're going to get a special young man who is a hard worker, who's driven, who wants to succeed, who wants to be great. Yeah, he's confident, but he's not arrogant, and he's coachable, and they're really going to get a special player.
Now, for me, my favorite spot for him would be with the New York Jets, because you go to a defensive-minded head coach, Robert Saleh, who's worked with some, the Legion of Boom. What more can you say to add to the resume than Legion of Boom? So that would be my favorite spot for him. You also mentioned the fact that, Cincinnati Bearcat fans are so excited for this draft because it has the potential to be very special, not just at the front of the draft, but through all 7 rounds. I think the record is 6 Cincinnati Bearcats drafted. I think that happened in 2009. What are the potential? I believe there was 8 really scouted, brought to the NFL Combine. What is the potential of making this one of the greatest all-time, draft prospects for the Cincinnati Bearcats?
Yeah, like you mentioned, there were 8 at the Combine. I think on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we'll hear at least 7. I think probably 9, and as many as 11 Cincinnati players drafted. And you think about it, I mean, that's in Alabama, Ohio State, LSU, all the great, the 01, 02 Miami team. We're in that category of just draft domination. But you got guys like, when you get past Sauce and then Desmond Ridder, you got a guy like Alec Pierce, who athletically is off the charts at wide receiver. He's slated to go in the late second, early third. Jerome Ford, an Alabama transfer who played 2 great years at Cincinnati at running back. You got Darian Beavers, a Buckus Award finalist as one of the nation's top linebackers. You got Kobe Bryant, who was the Jim Thorpe Award winner as the nation's top defensive back. So, I mean, this isn't just a top-heavy Cincinnati class with just Sauce and Desmond Ridder. These guys are legit playmakers, ballers, legit pros. There's some guys in the later round. We'll see if a guy like Joel DeBlanco at linebacker, he was a first-team all-conference guy. Not a great cover guy, but he's a guy that'll just outwork everyone. So I think he could stick on a team, special teams player, practice squad player. But there are legit, 9 guys, 10, 11 guys that we'll hear that could hear their names called during this next weekend. So it'll be a special draft. I talked to Luke Fickell about it on Wednesday. He's super excited. He will be in Vegas with Sauce as Sauce becomes probably the highest drafted player ever in the history of the program. So it's going to be a special evening, a special weekend for the program. And Luke Fickell hopes that it's just, one of many. They had a good draft last year. They got another solid class coming again next year. So Luke Fickell has got it rolling on the recruiting front, and he hopes that this is just something that continues to be something that happens for Cincinnati. It's just churning out pro caliber athletes.
All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who is your favorite Cincinnati football player to perform at the next level? I'll start off the bat. I have 2, since I'm an Eagles fan. Brent Selleck and Jason Kelsey are 2 of my all-time favorite people in general because they grind it out. They are just good down to earth people, and you want to root for them. So for you, what would be your favorite football player that made it to the NFL?
Nah, and those are two really great picks. And before I give you my answer, a really quick story. Brent Selleck was in my Africana Studies class in college, and our teacher was from Cameroon. So he knew a different kind of football, as in soccer, right? And he
Hmm.
would always ask Brent, so why do you run that way? Why do you wear the big helmets? Why do you wear so like hearing Brent describe the game of the American football to my African studies teacher was just hilarious. But I got to go with Kelsey's brother, Travis, right over in Kansas
Hmm.
City. I mean, he is probably the greatest tight end in the sport right now. What he's been able to do at the next level has been tremendous. And what's cool about Travis is he never hesitates to put on for the University of Cincinnati and represent, that school and talk about it and represent it. And, he had an up and down career at Cincinnati, but he really, learned the error of his ways and became a great student and a great student athlete. And has been a great, great, great pro. And he gave me an exclusive when I was in Kansas City covering the basketball team. He was there, and I got to run up and talk to him a little bit. So yeah, Travis is not only I think is he one of if not the best pro in the history of that program, but as far as being one of my favorites, he's definitely there.
We're speaking with Keith Jenkins, who covers Cincinnati sports for the Enquirer. One of the things I want to talk to you before I let you go is, they're not Alabama. Cincinnati isn't. They're not LSU. How do they restack, reload, and continue to, put themselves in the prime of a potential great bowl matchup or competing for the college football playoffs? Like we all know about them this one year. Last year, they had an opportunity. They played in a great bowl game. This year, they were in the college football playoffs. How do they continue that streak going, especially since now they're churning out NFL type talent?
And that's going to be the big question. I mean, this is a year that's going to test, can Luke rebuild? Can he rebound? He's losing more than 30 guys, right? Just guys who are pillars of this program. You're going to lose, potentially 9 to 11 guys to the draft. Can you replenish? They got some good guys already there. What Luke Fickell does well, and I think this stems from his time at Ohio State. He played there. He was there as a longtime assistant, so he knows what it takes to build a quality program. What Luke Fickell does at Cincinnati is he focuses on that. He calls it the 300-mile radius. If you're in Ohio, if you're in Pennsylvania, if you're in Indiana, Northern Kentucky, even in Michigan, if you are in this area that's within a short drive and you can play ball, you're coming to Cincinnati. If you're not on the radar of a Michigan, of Ohio State, if you want to come to Cincinnati and do something different and not go to one of these big guys, come here. You can still accomplish the same things that you want to accomplish at those places right here. He's done a great job of selling that. He's done a great job of building a quality staff with experience. And I think what he does most, man, is he builds a family atmosphere. He's a father, a devoted husband. That's really important to him. He plays into that as he's recruiting and trying to go into these homes and talk to these families. Him being a father, his son is on the team. That really is important to him. And the overall atmosphere is truly a family atmosphere. And the kids are buying into that. They want to come here and be a part of something special. They want to come here and feel that they're more than just a number. They're more than just a guy with a number on his back. And that's what he tries to build here. It's about the people, not just, the player. You're more than just a player or a guy with a helmet on. You're really, truly a part of something special and truly a family member. And that's what he's been doing. And that's really his pitch. And he's shown you that he wants to be here, and that's important. A lot of coaches, they don't look at Cincinnati as a destination spot. But when you look, he's had opportunities at Notre Dame and USC and Oklahoma and other schools, LSU, other schools have reached out to him, and he wants to be here. And the fact that now that they're moving to the Big 12, they'll have an opportunity to have even more resources, more money, more opportunities at a bigger bite of that apple. I got to think that it's only going to become more and more. I mean, he's got 4-star recruits and 5-star recruits at practices now. And, he just got a great commitment from Corey Kiner, who was a Cincinnati native. He left and went to LSU and decided, I'm going to go back home and be a part of something special at Cincinnati. So, he's building something special. He's done a great job of it. And I think people are really going to get a shot at what they're building here when they see this upcoming draft.
you know what? I can appreciate somebody that's loyal and dedicated not only to the organization, but the athletes that he recruits there. They're not just athletes, they're people too. They have emotions too. So I really do appreciate that aspect. I see a lot of that with Nick Saban and his recruits and bringing up people that, need second chances and giving them that opportunity to help them grow as young men as well as athletes as well. Real quickly before I let you go, I want to get the vibe of what it's like out there. You had
Sure.
the Cleveland Cavaliers doing well, you had the Cincinnati Bearcats, and oh, yeah, you had the Bengals make it all the way to the Super Bowl. What's the feeling? What's the vibe out there, especially with, something that feels like sports has really been dead for a long time out there, has really risen to the occasion, especially this year?
It's funny, like you said, oh yeah, and that Super Bowl team, man, like this city was on fire, and it's still on a natural high from that Super Bowl run. And I think too, it's been a while where there's a true optimism about a franchise, about an organization, about a front office who is doing something to win games. Now we're looking at what's happening with the Reds, and they don't seem to be too motivated to win. But as far as the front office goes. But to see the Bengals say, you know what, no, we're going to pay free agents. We're going to get into the draft and really make some splashes. And we're investing in the offensive line because we're seeing that, it's an obvious weakness of us. And we're getting our star quarterback killed, and they're addressing these issues. So I think, if anything, man, it's just exciting to see a football team succeed, a football organization and front office want to succeed. And then, of course, you're seeing what Luke Fickell's doing. We're just wanting to get everybody rolling at the same time. So let's get the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball team, get that program back going. And the Reds, man, I'm a baseball fan, and I think baseball is just better when the pillar organizations are special. And the Reds are one of those organizations. And when they're at the top, I just think baseball, and I'm not speaking just as a Cincinnati guy, but when a team like the Dodgers and Yankees and Red Sox and the big powers of Major League Baseball, the premier organizations, the Cardinals, when those organizations are doing well, it just makes the overall game special. So hopefully the Reds can figure it out.
Absolutely. Keith, as always, I really do appreciate the time. And, as we get closer to college football season and college basketball season yet again, I hope to have you on down the road.
Looking forward to it, Zach.
Thank you. That was Keith Jenkins, who covers Cincinnati sports for the Enquirer, always on top of his game, especially when it comes to talking football, basketball, baseball. Played the sport, played defensive back there at Cincinnati, did a great job there, so he really could help Sauce Gardner become what he did. He doesn't want to give him credit. I'll give him credit. Keith, you did an excellent job with Sauce out there. So Keith Jenkins, who covers Cincinnati sports for the Enquirer. If you want to catch him on Twitter, at Mr. Keith Jenkins, follow him on Twitter. I'm